not upset by the split decision outcome of this fight. It's just that last round scored by Mike Bell that really got everybody wondering, especially when you scored as a 10-8 on the last round and you're the only one.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Alexa Grasso defends her flyweight title, but not without some controversy. Noche UFC was amazing, folks. We had lots of good fights, great scraps, top to bottom, controversy, contenders, the entire nine. Breaking it down with me, as always, is my co-host, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native. Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. AJ, we got a spicy one here today because we got a lot of stuff going on. I already mentioned controversy. Mike Bell seems to have stolen the show. This wasn't about Shevchenko, it wasn't about Grasso, it was about the round 5 and Mike Bell. AJ, welcome. To kick us off, man, give me an initial impression, man. What did you think? Did Mike Bell's 10-8 in round 5 of the championship rematch, was it ludicrous or was it fair? What do you think?
Whew, Derick. I'm glad you opened up the segment with this, man. Absolutely ludicrous, Derick. He basically stole the entire, not only the show, but also Valentina's pay with that exact call, man. 10-8 is a wild one. And for it to make that big of an impact, one more point, a normal scoring on that round, and Valentina Shevchenko wins the fight, I was blown away. I had words to say at the end of the night, but this whole weekend, Derick, was actually, or the whole fight night, I should say, was actually had a lot in it, man. Knockouts, submissions, controversy, rules that are kind of being reinterpreted, man. This was even though it wasn't a pay-per-view match, I still like it provided that pay-per-view action. Although, Derick, I don't know. What do you think about that last Mike Bell call? Also, on that note, I'm glad they're putting their names on the screen, finally keeping them a little accountable for the judges. We'll see how that fares in the future. But what do you think, man? Was it as ludicrous as I let on?
Yeah, man, I think that was nuts. I'm going to have to watch it back, of course, so that's my discretion to everybody right now. I have not watched the fights back yet, but I will say that everybody in the building was pretty astounded. If you saw Sean Shelby's face when he found out it was a split draw, I think that tells you everything that you need to know. When you're a guy who's, I don't even remember what his position is, but when you're pretty much coinciding with Dana White in terms of authority, and you find out that score in revolving like your champions and stuff like that, it goes to show, man, there's something larger at hand here, and I think somebody made a mistake, Mike Bell specifically, but we'll talk about more of that later, folks. A little bit of housekeeping. First, to break 100 wins on the 2023 campaign, AJ got the job done. It was a close one, my man. It was a very close one, but I will say congratulations, and we still got a lot of fight left in us. So folks, if you're trailing our picks, AJ's got the hot hand right now. 101, 64 and 3 for him, 98, 68 and 3 for me. Of course, you're probably wondering, what is that extra 3 in the scoring? Those are the draws. Those are the pushed bets that just kind of get voided out, but we still are keeping accountable. AJ, quick word before we jump into all of that stuff. Just a sentence or two, man. How are we feeling with about 2-3 months left remaining in the head-to-head competition?
Derick, I still feel like I'm behind, brother. Folks, you can see those belts behind him, man. I'm jealous each and every single week coming into this. So I'm fighting tooth and nail. I'm scrapping by what we can. And even on this week, like Derick said, it was close. It was a split decision that ended up having me win the week. And that's how this game is going, folks. It is still 0-0 in my mind. If, I keep playing revisionist history, looking back, and Derick has come back from a far greater deficit. So I'm still hunting, brother. I'm still hungry over there. How you feeling? You finding that mojo to kind of pull another miracle comeback? What do you think?
I'm feeling dangerous, bro. Listen, every week it's 0-0 in my eyes, man. So we right there, it's neck and neck, and we have plenty to come. So keep following along, folks. Let's jump into a quick prop recap. But before we do that, if you have not subscribed yet, we're almost at 700 subscribers here at the Bloody Water Podcast Army, the Bloody Water Podcast Nation. We love you. We appreciate you. And I would ask you to do nothing more than right now, before we move forward, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, because this is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. You know what time it is. All right, AJ, prop recap. Look at that. So you never want to see the top of the headline just in a clear white, because that means that we never really got an outcome. But the key that we have here is Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks. 2-1. And won, I guess, because of the Valentina one. Listen, man, Fernando Padilla, a little bit of controversy in that one. Some people think he won. I don't think that he did win. I think that he won the first round and took his foot off the gas. We'll talk about that more in a second. But how are we feeling about our consensus picks, man? 2-1 ain't 2-1-1 ain't too bad. But the question is, do you feel like you should have took back that Padilla pick, looking back at it?
Looking back on it, Derick, no. If Padilla maintained what he did in the first round through the entire fight, I think he would have won that. But I actually got to give credit to Kyle Nelson, man. We talked about the dog that sticks in there. I'm not too jaded about that fight because it was a good scrap by Kyle Nelson.
Yeah, scrappy veteran, man. You know, when you're betting on these rookie prospects here in the UFC, dudes who have less than 3 fights in the promotion, it's never going to be a surefire bet. And with that being said, talk about some props. AJ, 2 misses again. Oh my God, you hate to see it. For you, I feel even more gutted because Raul Rosas Jr. had a very clear path to the submission victory. It was right there, but you can't be mad at him. 18-year-old got some pop in him, and he knocked out his opponent instead, so you're going to take that. Maybe in the distance probably would have been a wiser bet, but that's neither here nor there. Folks, I have to give you my apologies. This is the accountability hour. I saw a live dog in Jasmine Jasvidicious during the actual fight. As I was there live at the fights, I thought she got robbed. Upon review, the right fighter won. Tracy Cortez got the job done. I think the big difference was the speed discrepancy between Cortez and Jasvidicious. Neither here nor there. That was a bad bet, so we're going to get back on track next time. AJ, anything before we move on?
Man, I also got to apologize for mine, man. Like you said, everything was set up for that submission win from Rosas, and you got to take what's handed to you. And that KO was basically on a platter, so can't be too mad at it. But sad I missed a minus 115 prop bet, brother.
That's right. And when you're really looking at it, it's just one of those spots where it looks like we maybe, at least for me, try to get slightly creative on the bet sheet. And this was an incredibly chalky week. I said it in the pre-show. It was almost all chalk. Almost all the favorites just got the job done. So with that being said, happy hunting for the next one because we're going to get right back on track for UFC Vegas 79 next week. All right, AJ, let's talk about some fights. Let's get into it, brother.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
No title fight is complete without a little bit of controversy, right? I guess these days, Alexa Grasso, she defends her belt. And the saying is very true. If you want to be the champion, you have to beat the champion. And a lot of people, they're divided on the scorecard of this fight. And I think that's neither here nor there. So take the scorecard out of the equation. AJ, honest, genuine thoughts. Who do you feel won the fight?
Ooh, I feel like Shevchenko was winning the fight until basically history repeated herself. And then Alexa Grasso had that fast, really back snatch where basically, like I said, relived history. And that I can see why that swayed the judges to give Alexa Grasso that last round. And it all depends on how you scored it from there. I had Shevchenko winning it. All of it, all the entire fight. But that last visual, Derek, does it hold a lot of weight as it does with the judges that this might have turned the fight for Grasso with that last back taken submission and basically controlling her for about another minute on the ground? Does it hold a lot of weight for you?
It held a lot of weight, I think, specifically because how do you go from that to then saying, and new champion Valentina Shevchenko, right? Visually, Mexican Independence Day, I was there at the arena. It was crazy. All the Mexican flags were out. It felt like a boxing match, Floyd Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya. Like, that's what it felt like, right? So I do think that there could have been a little bit of pressure on the judges and pretty much on everybody to go in sway of the Mexican fighters. But then again, that didn't stop them from giving a straight up 30-27 to Kyle Nelson over Fernando Padilla. So we can't just sit there and just blanket statement, oh, Mexican Independence Day. I did think that because Shevchenko did mention that, that was a little bit of a sore loser mentality right there. You don't really want to see that, but I think this is the thing that stands the most true. If you're thinking about the first fight and you're thinking this history repeated itself, you're not taking in consideration that Shevchenko almost finished Grasso in the second round of the fight, right? So when you think about who came closer to a fight finishing sequence, I would argue it was actually Shevchenko in this fight, and I don't think that she got the credit for that. So when I'm looking at who do I thought won this fight, I thought Shevchenko was cruising to a victory until Grasso took the back, and then I think that muddied everything. And I think that that's more in line with like the reasonable take right there. Would you agree?
Way more in line. And I'm not upset by the split decision outcome of this fight. It's just that last round scored by Mike Bell that really got everybody wondering, because draw for a championship, nobody wants to see it, nobody wants to hear it, even if it is the most likely outcome. It's what the vast majority of people are thinking should be happening. Nobody really wants to take that outlook, especially when you scored as a 10-8 on the last round and you're the only one, man. I'm excited, Derek. I don't know if you have it pulled up yet for the media scorecards. I'm interested to see how they have it, because that right there is going to tell quite the story going forward. But like I said in the intro, I'm glad they're keeping keeping the judges accountable for their actions and actually listing their names on their scorecards now, because it provided a talking point for us. At least there's that. But I think it was very, very controversial of a call. What do you think, Derek? You got those pulled up?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. You read my mind right there. You know we're going to talk about it here. And it's not what you want to see when I pull up the MMA decisions. What you see right here is pretty much the consensus. It's down the middle, man. There's no consensus here. Everybody thought it was pretty much 50-50. So when you're taking a look at it, I'm not going to actually go out here and just count one by one. But the entire point is consensus from the media is it could have gone either way. There is no reasonable take right here that any fighter had a 10-8 round in any of the rounds right there. Because if you give Alexa Grasso a 10-8 in round 5, you should have gave Shevchenko a 10-8 in round 2, right? Like that's fair. So I do agree with Valentina Shevchenko when she says that 10-8 round 5 was unfair. And it almost feels borderline criminal. Like it feels corrupt. It feels like boxing. And I hate to say that, but that's what it felt like. Now, AJ, let's talk really quickly before we kind of dissect that a little bit more. What did we learn in this matchup? Because all of this aside, I think this distracts us from the point of what we saw here in this rematch. And I think that it's one of the most exciting flyweight title fights that we've probably seen in recent history. 2, we actually learned a lot about both Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko here. And my question to you is about the former, Alexa Grasso. She's not this fluke. She's not this one-hit wonder. What did we learn about the current champion?
She's a dog, Derek. That's what I learned. She's willing to stand there and trade and actually get to work in there with one of what looked like one of the most aggressive, most powerful versions of Shevchenko we've seen. When Shevchenko's sitting there bouncing, staying sturdy on that front foot, Alexa Grasso had no problem sitting there and giving it right back to her. That was impressive, as well as the calmness Alexa Grasso can be when hurt, when also she's the one doing the damage, and composed and calm in that aspect in order to get the fight to where it most benefits her. Completely kind of blew my mind that she's able to kind of transform into that championship mentality and really took that belt to heart and kind of, grew a level in her game. Derek, what did you learn going forward?
For Alexa Grasso, I learned a lot of those similar things. I also learned that she does have that grit that a lot of people don't have. She found herself in a fight-ending sequence. She could have given up. She could have been like, oh, I don't know how tight that mounted guillotine was, right? I don't know how in danger she felt when she had her back. Shevchenko wasn't even really going for a choke. She was just kind of trying to control arms and stopped getting punched in the face. But I just felt like she displayed a grit and a tenacity of an actual legitimate true champion. So it's somebody that you can be proud of to say this is the leader of the division right here. Unfortunately, the other thing that I learned is that she's going to have massive problems if she can't stop these takedowns, man. If Shevchenko is taking you down like that, which Shevchenko is a very talented grappler that doesn't get the credit that she deserves, what is Aaron Blanchfield going to do? You know what I mean? Like what are these other fighters, that have that repertoire? Like what are they going to do? Now, I do think that she has some sick jiu-jitsu off of her back. She was working that high guard, trying to work some triangles, things of that nature. But either way, man, a couple holes in the game. For Shevchenko, AJ, it's hard to learn new things about a dominant former champion, right? Someone who's 35 years old, somebody who's been doing this forever and has been reigning over the division. What did you learn about Valentina?
This is going to be a hard one to say, Derek, but I learned that Valentina still kind of can't get out of her head, in those last moments when everything was going her way and then out of nowhere it wasn't. You saw the panic take forth. You saw the kind of excuses start to build up in her own head, and even leading that to the post-fight press conference, like you were saying, when she's talking about it might have swayed the judges. Nobody wants to see that. That's an excuse. It's something that's out of your control. I like when fighters are able to take accountability for their actions and not worry about anything else. So seeing that play out, as well as seeing the eyes of Valentina when she was in that ending sequence in round 5, being mounted, getting beat up on, she looks a little flustered and panicked. And that right there was an interesting one because, one, it tells me that the belt, meant a lot to her. It was really something she cared for and fought for and saw slipping out of her grasp. And then we saw her working her way back to that. So maybe, we all, I've said this before in the show previously, that Shevchenko's, normally the princess of the division. She has that air of queen to her. This might be the villain arc that Shevchenko needs to kind of set her going forward to prove that she is still relevant and dominating in the division. I would love to see a villain arc, Valentina turn heel. I don't think that's going to happen. Derek, what did you learn about Shevchenko?
That was actually a really fair take, man. I actually really enjoyed that. I didn't think about it from that angle. And I have a slightly similar one, but I'm going to take a twist on it. What I learned about Valentina Shevchenko is the unfortunate nature that she is not outside of the realm of all of the other former champions who sometimes somebody has your number or somebody gives you a style of fight that is incredibly difficult for you to overcome in a dominant fashion. She is not outside of the curse of a 35-year-old former champion who time catches up to you, man. And maybe you're not quite as fast as you used to be, or you didn't have quite as much sting on your shot, or you couldn't defend the takedown as well, or something like that. And you have what looks like the current versus the foundation. And I feel like Valentina Shevchenko is currently now slowly fading away into the foundation. And here's why. As a Valentina backer, as somebody who's rooting for her, as somebody who thought she won the fight, the realistic nature is she said she broke her thumb in the first round of the fight, right? And we get a split draw right here. Well, you have Erin Blanchfield, Tyler Santos, Manon Fiorot all waiting in the wings for a title shot against Grasso. It doesn't particularly seem like it's going to be a lock for Shevchenko to get an immediate trilogy match. 35 years old, how long can you wait if you don't get the immediate rematch? If you get it and you finally get your title shot again and now you're 36, 37, we're starting to see slowly falling into the shadow. And I hate to say it because I love me some Valentina, but do you agree with that take or what do you think?
I do, Derek, and you're right. It does hurt to say, but the father time clock is ticking and pretty rapidly and a little louder each and every single year that is right there for the bullet. I don't know. I was thinking about that. How long could Shevchenko wait for the title if she doesn't get the rematch? 1-2 fights, which is a year, half a year, somewhere in there. That seems like a long time. Mm-hmm. And nonetheless, if the champion does get hurt, whoever wins that does get hurt and Shevchenko has to wait a little bit longer. We're talking a year, 2 years right there, Derek. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Shevchenko has the talent and the repertoire to be able to do that, but I don't know if it's the best option for her going forward. I think she needs that immediate rematch, but you're right. It's not a lock.
It's not up to her either. That's the thing. I bet you guarantee you should really want it. But if they pull a Duplessis and she's like, listen, I broke my thumb. I'm not ready to go on the date that they want. Insert Erin Blanchfield. Insert new champion. Insert now you don't get your shot. It was a very unconclusive main event here. I thought we learned a lot. I thought this was a fantastic title fight. Probably one that can go down in the history books as a title classic. But no resolution here, and still, Alexa Grasso. All right, AJ. Moving on to a co-main event that, I'm not going to lie to you, man, this one probably let a lot of people down because this was penciled in as violence luck. Like, this is going to be blood, guts, gore, violence, and it was all but that. This was actually a very technical kickboxing match, and not the fight that you want to bet on Kevin Holland in if it's going to be a straight technical fight like this. JDM was the right pick, showcased a lot of grit, a lot of efficiency, and just kind of did what he did best, man. Get on the inside, work his boxing, and kind of mitigate the reach of a Kevin Holland. Did you expect this type of performance coming out from the Trailblazer?
From the Trailblazer, kind of, sort of, Derek. I did expect more out of the ordinary stuff from him, because when you're fighting such a technical boxer like JDM and he's throwing stuff down the pipe at you, has nice head movement, he's coming on the inside, there's things that you can do to kind of get out and then jump back in and hurt Jack Della Maddalena at that. Kevin Holland kind of played a little more static of a ground game. He was willing to kind of engage in the technical fighting, but not branch out. That was going to find him success in the other realms, as well as all the takedowns we saw. He didn't complete a single one. Did he? I'm pretty sure he didn't complete a single one, Derek. Yeah, he shot like 3 or 4, but I expected more of that. I expected more leg kicks. I expected more more cutting angles and hitting counters and takedowns and stuff like that out of Kevin Holland to really provide him an advantage in this fight. Because in the technical match, we saw it. He was outgunned, outbattled, and outwitted. Did you expect Kevin Holland to pull more of the eccentric style that he once had out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I bet on him. It was specifically for that reason. It was because I thought that we're seeing jumping hammer fists, and we're seeing, just kind of like those crazy little things that he does in the clinch, in these weird situations to throw your opponent off balance and just not kind of let them know what your next read is, right? Instead, we did see a lot of leg kicks, right? I mean, my man landed 35 leg kicks out of 43 attempts. Like, he was very efficient. He outlanded Jack Della Maddalena, pretty substantially by like 20 strikes. So that's where I was a little confused when I saw the scorecards, and they're saying pretty much like it was 29-28 times 2 for Maddalena, right? So I was like, okay, that's fair. I mean, I have to go back and rewatch it, but that's not like ludicrous. I'm not like, oh my God, not a 30-27. I just felt like it was really weird judging, because you had on one hand Jack Della Maddalena being a pressure fighter, right, and constantly walking down his opponent doing that. You had other fighters in the night do that same exact thing and lose their fight. And then you have Maddalena, and they say, well, we give it to him on pressure and on efficiency. And it's like, but what about the other fighters, right? So this was the style of fight that Kevin Holland needed to provide for Jack Della Maddalena to have a victory like this. Do you think that if they ran this back 10 times, Maddalena gets the better of him more than like 5 or 6 times?
The majority, no, Derek. I actually see this fight being close each and every time. I'd say 5-5 is probably where it lands up. Maybe one of them gets, a better, just slightly better than the other. But I see this fight playing out consistently like that, especially if we see Kevin Holland doing more of the spin and stuff, or those little sneaky little elbows on the inside. There was a couple there when he was landing them, but Jack caught onto it and also started landing some of his own. If we see Kevin Holland fight a little more wild, I think that would bode for him real well. But at the same time, that's what leads to getting knocked out. That's what leads to putting yourself in danger. So I can see why a fighter doesn't want to jump in like that. But I think it's going to be a close fight. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Just because this is the other thing that I talked about for Kevin Holland. It's the thing you love and you hate about him, the unpredictability. I did not predict him to fight so technical, you know what I mean? So you just never know what you're going to get. With JDM, it's cookie cutter, but it's effective. And he got the job done. The right man won. Big decision win for Jack Della Maddalena. And my only other question is, not too long ago, we were saying we could see him in this like 7 to 12 range in this division. He might be shooting for the stars at this point, man. A big win over Kevin Holland, that lines him up. Let's get him in there against like Vicente Luque now. You know what I mean? Like, let's get him in there against a bigger name, higher number, and see how he fares. You think that's a good move?
Oh, 100%. I think that's in the stars for Jack Della Maddalena moving forward, man. It's only up from here. If you get, no matter how the win went, if you get a win on Kevin Holland, your name is now solidified as one of those top guys. People are going to be looking at you, put a target on your chest or on your back, and I think Maddalena is going to be prepared for it. I'm excited, man. That Vicente Luque fight sounds fun. Any of those ones up in there around that same area, sound like a great time. And we're going to be interesting to see how Maddalena handles somebody who's able to take him down, who's able to put him on the back foot and control that pressure right there. That's what I'm excited to see.
Absolutely, man. So big win by Jack Della Maddalena. And I will say that stone cold nature of him where fist fighting just seems like a Tuesday afternoon, man. You know, he's just like, yeah, I went in there. There's going to be time for fight, and we're going to go handle that, right? Big win by Jack Della Maddalena. All right, AJ, Raul Rosas Jr., he comes in and he starts his Terrence Mitchell. First round TKO. Not quite what we expected, because a lot of people thought that there was, after landing 2 significant strikes in his last fight, we thought that it was submission or bust, right? And he showed that he wanted to prove a point. Now, I don't think that was the best course of action, because depending on who's in there, this still is fisticuffs, this still is a fist fight. And listen, man, you can't just go in there swinging and banging, but he did it. It was effective, and he caught Mitchell perfectly, bro. The perfect left hook, straight on the nose, stunned him, dropped him, finished the job very quickly. AJ, thoughts and impressions. Was this smash spot for Raul Rosas? Was this underperformance by Terrence Mitchell? Or, I mean, is El Nino Problema, is he the real deal?
I think this was more so of a smash spot for El Nino Problema, Derek. This is very much a fight stylistically that was in his favor. Whether, he ended up actually getting the submission, because that was most likely the outcome, or, your opponent just drops his hand, he eats a left hook right when you throw it. It just worked out really, really well. I think especially the level that Mitchell was in his fight career. Don't get me wrong. This guy's a professional. He's in the UFC. What the hell? He's not a bad fighter by any means. Mm-hmm. But Rosas was just a little more fast, a little quicker, a little more dangerous in those kind of mixes. And it did seem like Rosas was just a little outmatched Mitchell was outmatched for Rosas, right? Rosas was the better one, more prepared going in there. And the submission still hurts me, Derek. I don't know. I'm still a little sad about the prop bet, because it was right there, juicy for the taking. But when you catch a left hook to the mouth, it does make a lot of sense. He hit him right on the nose too. It was a perfect spot. Bap, yeah. I got him. Do you think they're going to be giving Rosas another warm-up match or another feeder match going into the next one, or is he going to face a dog coming up? What do you think?
It's tough, man, because you never know what they're going to do, but I do think he gets more matches similar to this. I don't think this was a tune-up fight, a match. I don't think it was anything like that. Mitchell's a 33-year-old grown man who knocks out a lot of people. I just think that the biggest problem is, I think he expected one thing, saw Rosas had a different game plan, and then everything went out the window. Because when he was throwing, that's the thing about Terrence Mitchell, man. When he throws, it never feels comfortable really in there. It just felt very panicky, and that's what you saw. As soon as he got mounted by Rosas, he turned his back, started freaking out, and got the finish. And it was easy. And that's the thing, is that you have two options. Cover up because you're going to get your face smashed, or don't cover up and you're going to get choked. So what do you want? You know what I mean? So I think that the beauty is there's no flaw in your logic. Rosas got exactly where we needed him to be for that submission to happen. It was just easier to get the TKO. You know what I mean? Club and sub, baby. Or I guess just ground and pound straight up. But normally that's the approach, club and sub. Big win by Rosas. I don't really have anything else on here because we didn't have much to work with, but I will say that crowd popped for him, man. Like, this dude is going to be a star, man. Legitimately, he's going to be a star, and he's only 18 years old. We're going to be talking about this dude 10 years from now, and he's not even going to have entered his prime. That's crazy, right? So, big win by Raul Rosas Jr. Now, AJ, Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Giagos. This was a step up in competition for him. Yeah, you got Lando Venata in your last one, but you have a tested dude in Giagos, fought a lot of really good dudes. He could wrestle, got a ton of power. And Zellhuber even said it in the post-fight pressers, like, this dude hits hard, bro. Like, it's like when he hit me, I was like, yo, what is going on? That didn't stop him from showing out, using those long limbs to secure the anaconda choke when Giagos wanted to be a little too aggressive with the takedowns. Super impressive performance. And you have some people like Sweet Dreams, Jamal Hill, former light heavyweight champion, already crowning Zellhuber as a future champion, man. What do you think about that?
Future champion is a bold move, but I'm not shocked by it, I guess, Derek, because Zellhuber looked slick in everything he did, man. He looked proper in the stance, and also when he's throwing strikes, he's looking quick. The submission attempt on its own against especially Christos Giagos was fast, bro. Lightning quick, he jumped on it. I don't know if I would say champ right away, but I definitely think Zellhuber is going to be around for quite a long time, and he's going to be in the mix. He will be fighting for the championship. I'm excited to see how he develops in that game going forward and who they match him up with. But are you calling for the gold right now, Derek, or are you still seeing just a little bit of hesitancy?
No, I need to see some more. You know what I mean? I thought that was a great performance. Come on. You know who's the champion of that division? Let's not forget. That's Islam Makhachev. You know what I mean? Like, it's levels to this, right? But this is the Golden Boy, and he's getting the Golden Boy treatment, and he had a hell of a performance on Mexican Independence Day. So this is what you should expect. But listen, man, I just thought that it was a little bit of a slow fight, you know, heading into round two. Giagos was having a little more success than I would have liked, but that should be a given how time-tested he is. 0 for 6 for his takedowns, man. That's the real thing. If Zellhuber can continuously just be long, rangy, hit hard, be quick, and avoid the takedown, you would lend to him being a real problem in the division, correct?
Oh, that's why I'm saying I think this guy's going to be in the mix for a long time. His hips were out before Giagos was even thinking about shooting. Like, he saw a glimmer of, like, I might shoot, and his hips were already back, man. Yeah. Zellhuber was reading things so fast and so quick. It was impressive, man. That's why I was saying this dude has the skills to be in the mix right now. I'm not saying calling for gold or calling for top 10 or anything like that, but he has the skills, and I'm excited to see how this kid refines him, because he's got a long time before he's in his prime also, man.
I thought that submission was so slick too, man, because the moment he got it, Giagos was done, tapped quick, and it was just like, ooh, that was tight. And I know, because with that anaconda, what you really want is when you're in that position, you'll see your opponent's legs are going to be kind of like sprawled out. They want to get them as far away as possible from you. You want to hook their leg and kind of crunch them into a shrimp. That's what's going to really choke all the breath out of them. He didn't even need to do that, man. Tight grip. Big win by the Golden Boy, Daniel Zellhuber. All right, lastly, Kyle Nelson, parlay buster, something like that, man. Listen, the monster, he got the big win over Fernando Padilla, and I thought that this is really just a matter of the time-tested, veteran, grizzled UFC prospect, I guess. I don't know. What do you call it, Kyle Nelson right now? He's not a contender, not really a prospect, just a grizzled vet, right?
Yeah, I'd say grizzled vet. That's fair enough.
Well, he did what grizzled vets do, and he showed the rookie, hey, listen, buddy, if you want to win, you got to win all 15 minutes right here. You can't take your foot off the gas. And AJ, I do think that after Padilla, who I thought clearly won the first round of the fight, I think he took his foot off of the gas after that and just thought that, I'll just kind of point my way to a win. He does not have the greatest track record in decision results in his career. I believe now he's either 2-2 or 2-3 in decisions, and it's going to be tough to finish Kyle Nelson, even though he beat him up visually. What do you think about the 30-27 for Kyle Nelson?
Ridiculous, Derek. Absolutely ridiculous. She's giving 30-27s. I think clearly Padilla won that first round. But I mean, optically, it's hard to argue with the fact that he did so good in the first round, and then you see Kyle Nelson coming back in the second round and sticking there and not taking a backward step, really jumping in. You think like, oh, okay, like I think the right man won this fight. Yeah. So it's easy to see how if somebody takes their foot off the gas from their point of view, it's actually what other people are seeing on the other side is that Kyle Nelson stepped his game up and he elevated him now. And that's why he's winning all those rounds and winning all those minutes is because he elevated himself and not necessarily that Padilla took his foot off the gas. So that optically right there, I'm not mad at. But the 30-27, man, the judges are wild on this whole card, man, top to bottom. First fight of the night to the last fight of the night. It has had some interesting calls for the judges. I mean, rules, we can say rules for so many years, Derick, and it's seems like it's always going to be a talking point. Mm-hmm. Do you feel it the same way, or is this something, there's a little more nuance going into this fight? What do you think?
Nah, I mean, I got a similar take. Once again, I think the right guy won, Kyle Nelson. If you look at Fernando Padilla, man, it's like he was throwing a lot. He threw way more than Nelson. He just missed a ton, right? So Nelson ended up outstriking him by about 10 strikes total while throwing probably like 30 less strikes. So it's pretty good efficiency right there. But yeah, judging-wise, I think that's a fair take, man. I think Padilla just got a little overconfident in what he was doing. Probably thought, I'm cruising to a victory right here. Bro, he was flexing. Yeah, I won. And then 30-27. I was like, yo, what? But 29-28 was the fair score right there. And that's the thing. One judge will mar the whole entire perception of the fight with just a bad scorecard out there. Either way, I think that Fernando Padilla, this is probably going to be a really big wake-up call for him. And I think that that's probably going to be one of the better things for his career because you come off of a nasty victory, right? In your last one against Julian Erosa. Then you fight an even more tested guy in Kyle Nelson. I mean, tough sledding right there. Big win for Kyle Nelson. And listen, he wants to fight in Canada next and kind of get that resurgence going right here. So I guess the question to you is what role is Kyle Nelson serving, I guess, from like this point forward in his career?
That's a good question, Derick. What role will Kyle Nelson be serving, especially for the Canadian MMA fans? I mean, we have, the Dan Hardys, the GSPs. Could Kyle Nelson see himself being one of those kind of household names in the great land of Canada above? I think so. I mean, I think he could become one of those names, but I don't see him making the crossover to international stardom. But Canada's no slouch up there. They can scrap. They can get things done. Mm-hmm. I do think he'll be one of the ones right under that list of those two that I just listed off. What do you think, Derick? Is Kyle Nelson going to be the next Canadian star?
I'm not sure. Solid Canadian veteran. I'm not sure if Dan Hardy counts. I think he's British. I don't think he's Canadian.
Is he British? Okay.
Yeah, we might have to knock that one off. But GSP for sure, right? Either way, man, big win by the monster Kyle Nelson over the young Fernando Padilla. I'm sure he will bounce back. With that being said, I mean, that's your main card overview right there. Interesting fights, top to bottom. Some results that we didn't want, some results that we did want, a little bit of controversy in between. What more can you ask for? Folks, we're going to jump on over to do a little bit of a prelim pour-over, talk about some of the other fights on the docket, and I got a simple ask for you. Hit that subscribe button. Get us to 700 subscribers. We're so close. That is a massive army behind us. With 700 people, you can go and you can take over a small village. You know what I mean? Probably a medium size, but 700 people, that's kind of a lot of people, right, AJ?
700 people, Derick. That's definitely a taking over of a small village, man. We could be, this may not be January 6th, and I hope no one counts for saying that. But we could do a lot of damage, with 700 right backing us. And folks, it might be a simple ask from Derick over here, but I'm giving you a simple demand, folks. You want to jump on it right now. Don't get left behind when people are starting to follow in, when people are starting to line up and win all that money. Don't be one of the ones that isn't paying attention. Don't be one of the ones that gets left behind and gets left in the shadows. Come over here, make some cash. This is where it's nice over here in the land of green. But, folks, you got to share with your friends. You got to be a good person. You got to do all the stuff and make sure you're also hitting us with a comment down below when you're winning that money. We got to show the proof, man. We're keeping us accountable over here. Got to have a little bit of accountability for you. If you're winning money, make sure you put in the comments. Also, if we're leading you astray, you got that as well to say. Let us know down there. It does help. But most importantly, make sure you're sharing with your friends, subscribing, all down below. That's how we're doing it 2 times a week, folks.
That's right. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's the demand. I got the ask. Either way, let's talk about some prelims. All right, AJ, the biggest pop on the prelims was by far Lupi Godinez's victory over Elise Reed, a fight that I thought Elise Reed's arm was just completely snapped in half. Like that's what it felt like to me. Her arm is clearly made out of rubber, but Lupi Godinez, man, she put on a performance, and she put on a performance that kind of lends to the thought and the notion that Could she be an actual champion in the 115-pound division? That's a real question that we need to ask, given that she's primarily a wrestler. What are your thoughts?
That's a legitimate question now, Derek. Before it might have been a pipe dream, but Lupi Godinez provided so much aggression and violence in what she did. Lupi seemed like a new animal, and we've been liking Lupi since she jumped on the scene, which is a crazy thing. She was part of the coveted sleeper section, folks. And now you can see why. And she is literally following into that. She's bringing so much violence in that. The fact that Elise Reed survived what is probably one of the most vicious arm bars we've seen. I mean, besides it snapping, like it was all but snapped for a good minute and a half. I was pacing back and forth in the kitchen going, oh. My lady wasn't watching because it was violent, man. And that's what Lupi Godinez has proved that she will bring to the table every time. And this is a very impressive run for Lupi Godinez. I'm excited to see where she goes in the future. Were you as impressed, Derek? Were you scared for the arm bar like I was for Elise Reed? I mean, impressive. She got it out of there. But what was your big takeaway from this fight?
Well, I thought this was a smash spot for Lupi Godinez. I think that was pretty clear from the jump. She was a massive favorite. Taekwondo background for Elise Reed, but we know Lupi's going to go in there and she's going to grapple, right? That's the game plan. So when I saw that Elise Reed was making it a little more difficult, it did give me a slight pause, but just for Lupi to go in there to the next round and just finish the job, I just thought it was pure domination end to end. We do have to take the level of competition into account, which is why I don't think this win propels her to, oh yeah, she's going to be championship level ready. But I think that we need to start getting her in that top 15 and start really matching her up, man, and seeing what she can do. She's training with Alexa Grasso now. They're ready. They want to make a run for that title. I think that this was just a showcase performance that just opens the eyes of the fans to say, hey, this person, Lupi, yeah, put some respect from the fighter out of Aguascalientes, Mexico, man. So respect to Lupi Godinez. And let's move on to the next one, man. Another big one. Roman Kopylov. This one was a weird bout, man. We're two replacement fighters. They get an original booking. Josh Fremd, listen, he ate a nasty liver shot. This is Roman Kopylov's 11th win in a row by finish. Not 11th straight win, but like 11 wins all by finish in a row, man, which is pretty beautiful to see. I thought this was a mismatch from the gate, but listen, Roman Kopylov, he's looking like a very, very dangerous middleweight, especially if he can continue to keep up that takedown defense. What do you think?
This is an impressive match, and yeah, it might have been a mismatch in the favor of Kopylov, but I mean, this just bodes well for him going forward, man. Anybody you match him up with in this division, man, going and especially higher ranked, he's going to do really well. He has the skills to get it done, and anytime you can prove that the bread box is always open and available for some damage, it does hurt you and it does send you to the ground, man. This is an impressive one, especially once Kopylov saw the liver kick come in and hit him one more time with the liver punch. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Absolutely. I don't have much to say on it just because, I wasn't really high on this matchup specifically. I was a little surprised, though. Josh Fremd, 0 for 5 on takedowns, got finished the way that he did. Not the way that you want to start your UFC run, and I would imagine that, I'm not sure. I don't want to say cutting block, but this was doing the company a favor, stepping in. Maybe you get a little bit of a pass on this one for an unfavorable matchup. AJ, controversy, once again. Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Da Silva, a.k.a. Lacerda, a.k.a. my sleeper for the fight, a.k.a. AJ. What the hell happened right there, man? Chris Tognoni strikes again. Da Silva, he's chilling in a guillotine. Standing guillotines, which are kind of hard if you're not really taller than your opponent to really gain that leverage. Looked tight to me. He was good. And then the arm falls limp, and Tognoni stops it. He pops up, says, yo, I was good. Why did you stop this fight? And then, AJ, the inevitable happens. They replay it, and they rule it a no contest after the submission victory. You would say fair, but my question is, what the hell happened?
I would say fair, Derek. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, that outcome is the most fair. I'm trying to find another way to say it besides fair, but yeah, what the hell happened? The fight game, brother. That's just kind of the chaos of a fight. You can't really, even on the broadcast, they were saying Tognoni's going to get ripped for this one. And admittedly, yeah, it's his fault, but it was a hard call, man. Looking at it live or like in live action when it was happening on the TV, I was like, okay, his arm dropped. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Submission. Yeah, he went to sleep. That's what happens. Your body goes limp. and then instantly to pop up. I mean, I guess it does have shades of who was it, Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler with the thumb up.
Yeah.
That's what gets me, man. Stop giving the refs a thumb up and get out of the position. You're not there to say, hey, I'm okay. You're there to prove it in the fight game that you are okay and you're able to defend yourself. That's literally rule. I don't know if it's rule 1, but it should be one of the top rules. Defend yourself at all times. That giving a thumbs up to the ref is not defending yourself at all times. So I don't feel bad I wouldn't have felt bad if he lost the fight, but I do think this is the most fair outcome. Do you see it the same way, Derek? You have another take?
Originally I said your arm went limp. You almost gave the referee no choice but to jump in there and stop the fight. So you should lose the fight. But then again, if it's one of those cases of, well, did I tap? No. Did I verbally tap? No. Why are you stopping the fight? You know what I mean? And if I'm asleep, let me be asleep for a little bit and let him drop down. Because when you're a fighter and you have that choke and your opponent falls limp, you can feel it. That's when you're like, oh no, they're asleep, bro. Like, drop to the floor. So I can tell you that from experience, man. Like, I don't know, the chokes go quick and you can fall asleep quick and you're good, and then you're not good all of a sudden, and it happens very rapidly. So it's really tough. I just feel gutted for Chairez because it's a no contest. Now your pay gets affected. For Lacerda, this is, I mean, bro, like 0-5, I guess, 0-4 and 1 no contest in your UFC tenure. He's not guaranteed that he gets another shot. That's the problem. So he didn't get an opportunity to resume play and just be like, all right, let me showcase my skill set. It was a tough one, man. It was a tough one, and I feel bad for both fighters, but I guess it is what it is, right? Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel bad for both fighters. Fair enough. Not really much you can do. Cry over spilled milk all you want, but it does not change the outcome. I'm glad they did make this a no contest, though, at least. Yep. Like I said, it is the most fair outcome, but it sucks. Sucks for Chairez.
Sure does. All right, folks, next prelim, I got to do accountability hour, AJ. That's not the person we need to go on, but it is me. There we go. Accountability hour. So I gave you guys, I talked about it in my prop block. I gave you guys Jasmine Jasvidicius. I'd been talking her up the whole entire week, thinking that this is a smash spot because the pretty fighter, they oftentimes get a little more hyped up. Tracy Cortez has a huge fan base, and she's a very skilled fighter. And the reality of the situation is that upon replay, because when I saw it live in action, I did think Jasvidicius won, but Tracy Cortez, she was the rightful winner. The speed kills, and the speed killed Jasvidicius right there. She couldn't land some of the shots. She was a zombie. She walked her down. She pressured her. She did all the things. Volume wasn't there. And at the end of the day, Tracy Cortez, she did enough to get the victory. So I thought that was absolutely fair. Now, I do think that what I saw from this performance does kind of lend a little bit more to what I was talking about originally, and that's that the higher the opposition goes for Tracy Cortez, these close, even though 30-27, which I thought was pretty ridiculous, but these close victories that she's having against a fighter like a Jasmine Jasvidicius makes you really wonder, okay, well, you put Tracy Cortez against the top 10, against the people who are really killing it right now in the division, it might not go the way that we expect. So I think that she left a little bit of meat on the bone in the fight. After round 2, looked like she was starting to gas, which was not really good, and she didn't showcase any wrestling. So that was the best part. She didn't wrestle. Won this fight basically on kickboxing. So that's a good note right there. My question to you, AJ, did you think that Jasmine Jasvidicius had the correct game plan to get the victory? This is what she does every time. She walks you down, and she just shows that she's a bigger dog. She just couldn't land her strikes. 10 out of 10 times, is Tracy Cortez walking away with a dominant victory here?
I don't think so, Derek. I actually thought this was a lot closer when I was watching it on TV. And again, I think the right girl won the fight. But Tracy Cortez was beat up, man. She was bloody. She was bruised. She was, had a couple welts on her face. And to answer your question, was Jasvidicius' game plan the best plan of attack? I think so, especially for what we expected Cortez to do. Now, the fact that she didn't shoot any takedowns, like you said, she won this fight basically all on feet, speaks leaps and bounds to where Cortez is going as a fighter, because we know she has that good ground game. We know she can survive in that aspect, but the question is how is she going to do when somebody's walking her down, when somebody's striking, when somebody's beating her up? She did pretty damn good. I can't complain too much about it. I mean, there was some lack of head movement, the gassing, and all of that stuff going forward, but that style of fight, if she's able to combine the two now, and then when she goes up and moves forward, I do think that's going to bode well for her. But to the same point, that you put up against the top 10, it sounds like a hell of a mountain to climb. Mm-hmm. You can't be squeaking by in this level of fighter where she is right now. You can't do that against the top dogs. It's going to be a hell of a mountain to climb going forward. You see the same way, Derek? Or you excited for the future that presents to Tracy Cortez?
No, I'm very excited for the future. I mean, listen, man, she's running through all of her opposition. She already has a win over Erin Blanchfield, so that makes things really interesting. She's planning a title run. My only thing is that can you win these fights when you're on the back foot the whole fight? You know what I mean? Like, she was on the back foot the entire fight, getting walked down, and then won at 30-27. So I'm just like, once again, when we talk about that JDM fight, right, where he wins based on pressure, but Jazz Vidicius gets zero love for her pressure, it's just inconsistent judging, which goes to show you squeaking by on decisions. Sometimes it's going to go your way, absolutely, and then sometimes it's not. And you can't be mad at yourself because you're putting yourself in that position for that style of fight. But the counters were working. She was landing. And once again, this is just my accountability hour right here. You know what I mean? My Eaton Crow hour. So big win by Tracy Cortez. Now, AJ just won last one because we are running a little short on time and we need to do a rankings review. Josephine Kutsin. I wanted to mention this fight against Marnich Man simply because I thought that Kutsin is a prospect that you need to watch out for. That's really the entire point. Nothing super flashy. I knew this wasn't going to be an incredible bout, but she had a dominant win. When I saw the scorecards, I was so surprised. Granted, I'm there. I'm watching. I saw the domination take place. I'm thinking 30-27, 30-26 at best. I hear 30-24, 30-25, 30-27. I was like, 30-24? You 10-8'd her every round, huh? Like, you just mauled her, which she did. But the problem is, AJ, I was very disappointed because I thought this was one of the most dominant, uninspiring wins that I've seen in quite some time for somebody who was such a massive favorite. And everybody thought that she should have finished Marnich Man, who was tough. But the problem is, when you finally go for a choke, when you finally try to really finish the fight, there's like 2 seconds left in the fight, and it's too late. And guess what? I'm pretty sure Man was tapping to that choke that she had put on her, right? So very impressive. I think she's going to do fantastic things, but do you now understand why Dana White did not give her a contract on the Contender Series when you can destroy your opponents, but you're not finishing them?
100%, Derek. Nobody wants to see somebody play with their food. We're here. This is the game of getting finishes. There's a reason the saying goes, do not leave it to the judges. It's because people don't want to watch that. And at the end of the day, this is an entertainment business, so I can see why Uncle Dane is a little bit jaded. And I mean, proves it, man. Knutson, however you exactly say it, she is very dangerous, very dominant. But again, if you're not willing to put yourself in the position that's just a little more dangerous for you to get the finish, nobody's going to be your advocate going forward. I'm excited for Knutson, especially if she's able to kind of put that together and start knocking some finishes out. That right there will speak levels. But at the same time, we don't really see too many finishes in the women's division. So if she can make herself that star that is, then I'll be excited for it.
Yeah, and I want to, let me take one step back, man. It's like you shouldn't crucify a fighter for a dominant performance. She won handedly. Like, it wasn't even a question. The only problem is you were expected to win. It was dominant, but, you couldn't finish. All right. I think that she's going to be a real problem for the division. I just think that this is indicative of, sometimes why you don't get the contract when, you should have. But either way, she's in the UFC now. That was a fantastic victory, and that is your Prelim Pourover. Folks, we are running out of time, so we're going to go jump into a rankings review, and it is only right, AJ, to talk about the women's flyweight division with all the controversy. We just need to kind of parse it out. So I don't even want to spend a lot of time here, AJ. I just kind of want to talk about the basics right here. Alexa Grasso is the champion. Valentina Shevchenko arguably should be and new, and she should be the champion, and we should be getting a still. I don't even know if Grasso would have got a trilogy matchup, given that she would have had no title defenses. Now you get a title defense, but by draw, does it really count as a title defense? It does, but that's neither here nor there. The question is, man, this is what I was saying. These are the only fighters that are relevant right now in this division's entire top 15 that for a title picture. Honestly, these are the people who deserve a shot, and I do feel terrible because now it almost seems like Erin Blanchfield needs to fight Manon Fiorot for a title eliminator to figure out who fights the winner of the trilogy if we get a trilogy, which does nothing but stall the division. It takes time off of the career of the people that you have that should be fighting for these titles, and this is just not a fun predicament to be in. So what do you think, AJ?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a fun predicament to be in, but it's kind of the one that seems most likely. I don't think anybody's trying to get on the bad side of the bullet, especially for the long amount of time she's been, working with the UFC and providing great content and being that, consummate professional of the UFC champion she was. But at the same point, I don't think she's drawn in as many numbers as she used to. You know, there are bigger fans for other fighters, especially the Tyler Santos, the Aaron Blanchfield, the Alexa Grassos. All of those fighters right there do have a fan base, so it's no longer just the Bullet that's reigning dominant. People are clamoring for other people to start getting in the mix right there. I personally I think the Shevchenko does deserve that rematch, especially because I think she won this fight. But at the same point, I can see a world where she doesn't get it going forward. I would like to see that matchup you're talking about, the Blanchfield versus the Furo, as a title eliminator. But again, Derek, that's just stalling for more time and delaying the inevitable. I don't know. What do you think? Aaron Blanchfield versus Alexa Grasso for a title shot? Does that sound a little bit more appealing to you? What do you think is the most appealing outcome of all these mix-ups?
It's tough because somebody has to lose and not lose in a fight, but like you just lose on what you want depending on what happens. I think that if you do Blanchfield versus Furo, it almost took all of the stakes off of Blanchfield versus Santos and Furo versus Namajunas. Like it made those belts meaningless pretty much, right? So it's like you kind of are forced to honor your word and to say, okay, well, Blanchfield, that's the thing. It's like, who do you give it to though? Is it Blanchfield or is it Furo?
I would say, I would say Blanchfield just because what he done for me lately. She seems to have more fan base and more people looking at her. But at the same time, if you're Rose, just be Rose. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Blanchfield, you just beat Tyler Santos, who gave Shevchenko a good run for her money. But if you're Furo, you just beat a former 2-time champion. You know what I mean? So it's like, how does it weigh? So then it almost, like I said, does seem like that must take place now. A title eliminator between Blanchfield and Furo to really determine who gets the next shot. Once again, I just think this stalls it for everything. And I just think this situation kind of sucks. So that's your rankings review. 60 seconds right there, folks. All right, man. We made it to another outro. Next week, AJ, we have UFC Vegas 79. Folks, I want you to understand, this is going to be a really good card. Rafael Fiziev, Mateusz Gamrot. Wrestler versus striker. You gotta love to see it. A lot of other fun fights that are going to be on the card as well. If you are interested in getting just a casual preview into what the card looks like, feel free to subscribe to the Fight News newsletter. Links below, a little something that we're doing right here. AJ, talk to the people. They can find you, Santa Fe Bomber, across all boards. Talk to them.
Across all platforms, folks. If you're out there watching, go subscribe to me on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, Twitter, X, whatever it's called nowadays. Santa Fe Bomber across all platforms. Also dropping a new quick hit series for this. So if you're looking to get just a little bit of taste of a breakdown, you're going to need to come here for the picks. You're going to come here for the actual breakdowns. But if you just want a quick hit of what I'm thinking in my mind going into the betting, that's a new series we got over there, as well as gaming, art, everything I do. It's all on that YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe there. But as always, folks, you know where the hub is. The main gate right here. It's all across Bloody Water Podcast. Make sure you share it with your friends. You want to win money, folks, you can see I'm still up on the board, but as always, our consensus picks are hitting week in and week out. There's a reason we're your favorite fighter's favorite fight show, folks, and it's because we're speaking the truth while also winning in some money and staying accountable for the words we say, because nothing better than keeping ourselves accountable when you're winning some cash. That does feel great all around, so make sure you're sharing with your friends and hitting that button down below.
That's right. And listen, folks, AJ is up on the board right now. He is the leader. So if you want to kind of figure out what's the method to his madness, go check out the YouTube channel, man. youtube.com/@SantaFeBomber. Bloody Water Podcast for everything else, all the goods. Once again, you can go ahead and sign up for free for the weekly Fight Muse newsletter. We will be dropping on, I believe, Wednesday is when it goes out. So keep an eye out on that, folks. That is it for us. Subscribe, all the fun stuff. That's it. All right. Until next time. Peace.